Let's add some color to the lampshades. You see how the originals look? These are much brighter, much prettier. So let's get making these. Now first we're going to start off with making a pattern. We have to have something to put on our fabric that we can kind of trace to. So we'll use the existing shade. We're going to go ahead and trace out the pattern on our piece of cardboard here. This is just 1/4 inch corrugated cardboard. You can buy it pretty much anywhere. And we'll I trace it out with a marker, and I'm taking a block of wood that is 1/2 inch thick, and I'm tracing, basically I'm growing the pattern by 1/2 inch on all sides. I'm going to go ahead and cut it out with my razor blade. And this doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to do some trimming a little bit later. So again, same thing, 1/2 inch on the outside, and we'll go ahead and pull this thing off, get rid of our excess cardboard. I'm writing up on my pattern so I know what side is up. Now here I'm going to throw my pattern on my fabric and start cutting this thing out with the razor blade. You'll see I got a couple different color fabrics. I made this video overdoing I think 3 of these shades in a day. So it's just kind of a compilation of all the different footage that I got. I'm wearing a little helmet cam here. So anyway, I'm going to test fit this, make sure it all fits. Looks like it fits okay. Now I'll go ahead and I'm going to start spraying adhesive on my fabric. This is just some 3M 77 spray adhesive. I'm putting basically 3 coats on here. So it's 1 coat, kind of a pause, 2nd coat, pause, 3rd coat. And then I'll take it and I'll put it over on my other bench, and I'll go ahead and I'm going to spray the shade itself. I have the shade set up off the ground probably, I don't know, 1 inch. And just so that glue or that adhesive can get all the way around. And I'm spraying in such a pattern that the adhesive doesn't really go on the inside of the shade. I'm kind of spraying in directions that allow that adhesive to stay outside of the inside of the shade. Now here, this is the tricky part. You have to kind of pull on the fabric as you're turning the shade across here. It's a little bit of a technique, and you can kind of work the shade in the direction you want it to go. Now here I'm going to create a folded seam so that it looks really nice should someone see the back side of the shade. This is just basically a 3/8 cut, folded in half, and then glued in place. Very simple. Now here I'm going to go ahead and put some tape on the inside edge of the top and the bottom of my shade so that I can put on contact adhesive here in just a second. And I'm using blue painter's tape here. You can use regular masking tape if you want. It doesn't really matter. Now we're going to grab our contact adhesive, and you can pretty much use any kind of contact adhesive, and I'm just putting this on with a little brush, and you can see the tape there is to keep that contact adhesive from getting onto the inside of the shade. So we're going to put this stuff on here fairly liberally, and we're going to let it set for a good probably 10 minutes or so. We'll rotate the shade and we'll do the other side. And contact adhesive generally needs to set up until it's tacky. Now the fabric already has spray adhesive on there, and that spray adhesive gets sets up a lot faster, but it's okay. This contact adhesive is going to adhere very well to the fabric. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to roll this edge. Now that our contact adhesive is dry, we're going to roll this edge, and I do it just in little tiny increments. As you see, I'm just kind of rotating, and I'm just rolling that stuff over nice and tight. And the thing is that you do want to make it as tight as possible. You don't want it to be loose. And if you have any crease marks, you can just kind of work that crease out, and you'll get it to where it sets on there really nice. Now I'm taking a single edge razor blade, and I'm cutting off the excess right up to the edge of my shade. That's going to work out super easy. The shade material is a nice hard plastic, so you can run that razor blade along there fairly easily, and you don't have to worry about cutting through the plastic. And this takes a little bit. You got to be kind of patient. Sometimes you'll end up with some little hairs in the fabric. You just need to make sure you have a nice fresh blade and cut off all that excess material. Here I'm just placing a little bit of tape on this tag so it doesn't get in my way as I'm trying to cut all this fabric off of here. Now you can look at your work here, marvel at what you did. Looks really nice. It's nice and tight. The seams look really good. And yeah, it's a pretty piece. So now you can put this in your living room or wherever you have a lamp, and it's going to add a nice bit of color and a little bit of a conversation piece, whereas most shades are pretty, kind of the shade itself is fairly bland. This one is beautiful. So good job, and see you in the next video.